Hello, and greetings, lovely person. This is RPGmodsFan. In this walkthrough video, I will be reviewing the 6th adventure in the Candlekeep Mysteries Anthology book, which was published by Wizards of the Coast in January of 2021. This 5th edition D&D Adventure is titled The Price of Beauty. It was written by Mark Hulmes. The adventure is meant for 5th level player characters. The adventure starts with the player characters in Candlekeep. They were just given a book titled The Price of Beauty to page through. At the same time, there is an avowed who bumps into the player characters. The avowed are Candlekeep's librarians. This one is looking for one of her fellows and friend. As a dungeon master, I would run this adventure as an optional side quest and not tied to or part of a main campaign. Hence, I would change the start of this adventure.
Hello, my name is Allrot. I am the former keeper of tomes. Some time ago, the task of governing Candlekeep has been turned over to the Archmage Janusi. Anyway, my assistant, RPGmodsFan, will now be discussing the adventure itself, and his video will contain spoilers. Unless you are a dungeon master who will be running this adventure for their players, or are a player who already played through this adventure and are watching this video for nostalgia purposes, I would suggest not to watch the rest of this video.
I will first discuss the adventure as written, before making my suggestions on changing it. Like most of the adventures in Candlekeep Mysteries, The Price of Beauty did not include an adventure overview or summary. Candlekeep Mysteries should have had adventure overviews and summaries for each of its adventures. The beginning and middle of The Price of Beauty adventure is a role-playing adventure. It is likely the adventure will end with combat. The synopsis of the adventure would be as follows. A book about beauty shows the way to a secluded temple where beauty is only skin deep. Player characters who do not want to get embroiled in the temple's mysteries should, at the very least, enjoy the bath and a pedicure. I would summarize the adventure as follows. The player characters are in Candlekeep and they come across the book titled The Price of Beauty. A half-elf acolyte named Loris Nis asks the player characters to find her friend, Falthrax Lodir, who is a shield dwarf and was last seen 2 days ago studying the Price of Beauty book. Via gazing and talking to the mirror on the front of the book, a portal opens and the party teleports to the Restful Lily Temple and Bathhouse. The Price of Beauty book is a MacGuffin of the adventure. It serves only as a means to transport the player characters to the site of the adventure. In an interview in the 36th issue of Dragon Plus Virtual Magazine, Mr. Hulmes describes the book as a live, laugh, love kind of self-help book. It shows the way to a secluded temple where beauty is only skin deep. The Restful Lily is run by a coven of 3 green hags, who, via illusion, look like 3 beautiful female elves. There are plenty of role-playing opportunities for the player characters. The adventure can start off as a spa day, where they can indulge in the temple's spa-like facilities, such as a bath and a hot spring, a massage parlor, and a workout regime. One or more characters can have a painting of them made that grants them a boon, but ends up as a curse a year later. They can meet other guests at the temple as well. The characters can undertake a couple of quests given to them by the hags, which are to kill a couple of supposed monsters in the temple and its grounds. The adventure ends with the characters breaking the Coven of Hags, one way or another. One way or another. In terms of an anime series, this adventure would be like the beach or spa episode. To keep your players off guard, at the beginning, it should be played as such. Over a century ago, Sylvari Silversong, an elf and a cleric of Soon, has founded the Temple of the Restful Lily. The Restful Lily Temple and Bathhouse was built in an ancient and serene grove in the High Forest, which is south of the city of the Silvery Moon. Sylvari Silversong authors the self-help book titled The Price of Beauty, and has an enchanted magic mirror fitted into its front cover. The polished oval mirror is capable of opening a portal to the Restful Lily. 10 years ago, a coven of green hags tricked Sylvari and took over the Restful Lily. About 9 years ago, Sylvari transformed into a Medusa. The three hags maintain and upkeep the bathhouse and tower portions of the Restful Lily, but not the shrine portion. The shrine to Soon is now crumbling, and is where Sylvari, in her Medusa form, now resides. The Coven of Hags call themselves the Fetid Gaze. The hags use their power of illusion to appear as three beautiful female elves. They now use the Restful Lily to lure wealthy, greedy, and vain nobles and adventurers. The hags prey on their insecurities and try to trick them into accepting dark bargains. The adventure starts with the player characters in Candlekeep. They were hired by a wealthy, vain noble to have the Price of Beauty book copied. Or they may come across the book while researching Soon, the goddess of love and beauty. Upon seeing the characters with the book, a half-elf avowed acolyte named Laurice Nis asks them to find her friend Falthrax Lodir. Falthrax Lodir is a shield dwarf who, like Loris, is an avowed acolyte of Candlekeep. He was last seen 2 days ago studying the Price of Beauty book. By gazing into the mirror on the book's front cover and answering its questions can open a portal to the Restful Lily. It is assumed the party then enters the portal and are then teleported to the front grounds of the Restful Lily. In their illusionary forms, the hags and their servants try to get the player characters to relax, use the bathhouse facilities and services. Basically, try to get them to have a spa day. The hags will try to get one or more of the player characters to accept a dark bargain. They will say that they can grant the player character's deepest desire. Some examples include enhancing one of their ability scores by 2 points, granting or restoring youth, or changing their race, gender, and/or appearance. The one thing the hags do not mention is that this boon lasts only a year, and the character is then cursed. If the player character accepts, a painting of him or her is made. On its completion, the player character gets what they desired. However, 1 year later, they are cursed and lose not only the boon, but also are negatively affected as well. For instance, if the character wish for great strength, they will gain a +2 to their strength score. However, 1 year later, not only does the character lose the +2 gain, but also loses an additional 2 points from their strength. The hags could ask the party to rid the Restful Lily of its supposed monsters. They can ask the party to vanquish the Medusa in the abandoned temple. As mentioned before, the Medusa is actually Silvari Silversong, who was tricked a decade ago to have a painting of her done, and after a year time has lapsed, she was then transformed into a Medusa. In the bath and hot spring room is a Naiad who the hags claim is a capricious elemental spirit. Basically, once inside the Restful Lily, the adventure offers plenty of opportunities for role-playing. The characters can even get the hags to turn on one another. The adventure is considered concluded once the adventurers have dealt with the threats of the hags and their servants. I will now discuss the adventure's cast of characters, starting with the Coven of Hags, who call themselves the Fetid Gaze. The names of the hideous hags are Vile Sazha, Auntie Greenbones, and Dread Morgan. The hags employ a number of minions to maintain the appearance that the bathhouse is running normally. Twice a day, the hags cast spells on themselves and their minions to disguise them. In her disguised form, Vile Sazha calls herself Azirsa and appears as an athletic sun elf with copper hair who wears an ornate breastplate with a red fur mantle. Auntie Greenbones is the eldest member of the Fetid Gaze. In her disguised form, she calls herself Greensong and appears as a cheerful, rosy-cheeked wood elf. Greensong feigns blindness. She wears a delicate white veil across her eyes and speaks in a sing-song voice, giggling often. In her disguised form, Dread Morgan calls herself Morgana and appears as a slender moon elf with smooth black hair and sparkling sapphire eyes. She speaks in a husky and alluring voice. She focuses on the business of running the bathhouse. In addition, Auntie Greenbones has a loyal pet hellhound named Morty. In its disguised form, Morty appears as a normal hound. Saith, a Cambion, was recruited by Dread Morgan. In his disguised form, he appears as a human, and during the day is often found at the Restful Lily's lobby greeting guests. The hags created 6 scarecrows for various roles in the facilities. They are disguised as attractive humanoids. However, they do not speak. Instead, they just nod and smile if spoken to. A male drow named Ilmar Mizrim works as an aesthetician for the bathhouse. Ilmar is secretly a Harper agent. He was a close friend of Silvari years ago, but fell out of touch with her before the temple was built. 3 months ago, Ilmar received a haunting vision of his old friend Silvari, who appeared to be in a suffering state. His search for her led him to the Restful Lily, and he decided to investigate by posing as an anesthetician seeking employment. Ilmar has seen through the illusions covering the hags and their minions. He has been unable to thoroughly investigate the area because the hags have 2 scarecrows constantly watching him. Silvari Silversong, a moon elf, originally founded the Temple of the Restful Lily. She was a devoted priestess of Soon. In order to gain more confidence, she was tricked by the hags to have a cursed painting of her done. She has transformed into a Medusa and is now trapped in the temple's former shrine too soon. Another of the hag's victims is a dragonborn named Gorba da Dendrian. Already a mighty warrior, Gorba wanted even more strength, which only lasted a year. When she realized the true nature of the dark bargain, the Dragonborn returned to the temple to challenge the coven. However, she lost and became a withered husk of her former self. Glitter is a male thiefling. He came to the temple wanting to be a few inches taller. The hag's curse has transformed him into a kobold. In his new form, Glitter now bitterly serves the hags. He seeks to end his curse and return to his home in Waterdeep. The shield dwarf and friend of Loris Nis, Falthrax Lodir, became fearful of growing old. He used the Price of Beauty book to teleport to the Restful Lily, hoping to restore his youth. He bargained with the hags to restore his youth. However, he had second thoughts and he renounced the bargain. The hags then curse-aged him well into his venerable years. Falthrax is now racked with constant pain. Because the Temple of the Restful Lily is known among the more elite folk of the Sword Coast, there can be any number of those folk visiting when the characters arrive. Some of the guests could include a Flaming Fist veteran from Baldur's Gate who has come to the temple to recover from a leg injury, a merchant and his or her wife came to the bathhouse to celebrate their anniversary. An assassin has come to the bathhouse to hide out from the authorities after recently botching an assignment in Waterdeep. Or the Dungeon Master could create their own NPC guests. Displayed is the ground floor map of the Restful Lily Temple and Bathhouse. The map is probably easier to decipher with the rooms labeled as they are now. The bathhouse and the tower are luxuriously appointed, with the walls and floors of polished stone. The stonework in the abandoned shrine is now crumbling and caked with grime. Disguised as a human, the Cambion Saith will be working in the bathhouse's lobby. In the lounge, the hag Dread Morgan, in the guise of Morgana, is often here talking to the other guests and trying to convince likely prospects to indulge in the temple's special treatments. The hag Vile Sesha, in the guise of Azirsa, is usually in the garden. She uses the garden as a place to exercise and torment guests with physical training. One of the trees in the garden is an awakened tree under her control. Her quote-unquote workouts include squats, tug-of-war, and chain-skipping. The bath of the bathhouse is built around a natural hot spring. A creature that spends at least 1 hour in the bath gains the benefit of a greater restoration spell. Magically bound to the hot spring is a naiad named Serena. She has made the waters of the bath harmful to the hags and her minions. She can likewise make it harmful towards other creatures. Thus, the hags will try to trick the player characters into thinking Sirena is a malevolent elemental. Sirena was friends with Silvari. She has no idea what has happened to her, and she is sad about her friend's disappearance. The hag, Auntie Greenbones, in the guise of Greensong, is usually in the kitchen with her faithful hound Morty. She prepares delicious-looking but tainted meals for the guests of the temple, often slipping in putrid ingredients or traces of poison. Any guest who suffers the effect of a tainted meal is told that they are feeling toxins and impurities leaving their bodies as a result of the healthy living the temple promotes. Guests who request haircuts, shaving, waxing, or massages are tended to in the treatment rooms. The Drow Ilmar Mizraim works here. At night, assuming the player characters are staying in their guest rooms, the character with the highest passive perception will hear a quiet disturbance outside their room. What they heard was Glitter tasked by the hags to fix a broken lock. Though, to the characters, it looks like the kobold was trying to pick the lock to a guest room. Over a decade of neglect, the former beautiful shrine to Soon has fallen into disrepair. The 4 large mirrors that once hung on the walls are now shattered. At the shrine's basement is a pool of water. Silvari, who is now a Medusa, spends most of her time here. The pool of water is a home to a water weird, and is Silvari's only companion. Above the entrance to the tower is what appears to be a statue, but really is a gargoyle instead. The cursed dragonborn Gorba Dardendrian can usually be found at the tower's foyer. Any characters who have entered into a dark bargain with the hags will be brought to the studio. Here the hags create the cursed paintings. The tower has more than 2 floors above its ground floor. The missing library acolyte and Lorisnus' friend, Falthrax Lodier, who now appears as an elderly dwarf, can usually be found in the tower's kitchen. Also in the kitchen is a gargoyle that initially appears to be a statue. On the other side of the kitchen are the sleeping quarters of the hag's victims. Also in this chamber are their cursed paintings, including Silvari's cursed painting. Destroying the paintings will break the curse. So, what makes no logical sense to me is why the victims do not destroy the paintings to end their suffering. The adventure states that it takes great strength to destroy the paintings. So, why don't the victims team up, combine their strength, and destroy the paintings? Anyway, the lair of the fetid gaze coven of hags is on the top floor of the tower. The adventure is considered concluded when the threat of the hags and their servants are dealt with. As I have stated earlier, the Price of Beauty adventure is best run as an optional side quest. In this case, I would place the Restful Lily along the path of the player character's next destination. If it is run as a normal adventure, your players will be too suspicious, especially when offered the dark bargain by the hags. In this case, I would have the hags not be pushy and quickly withdraw their offer if the characters are being rude with their questions. I would try to make the elf disguises of the hags as convincing as possible. Perhaps have them talk to the cleric of the party, asking him or her to treat themselves to a break from babysitting the kids, aka the adventuring party. At first, I may not have the characters encounter the Naiad at the bath, so that they can use it for its greater restoration effects. I would also add regenerative effects to the bath as well. This would give the characters even more incentive to return to the Restful Lily during the course of their adventures. Let us assume you, as the DM, are running Book of Cylinders, which is the next adventure in the Candlekeep Mysteries book. I would relocate the Restful Lily to the north of Candlekeep. In this adventure, the player characters are tasked with finding out what has happened to a settlement of Buckley. The settlement provides Candlekeep with a steady supply of fish. The settlement is located on the shores of the Sword Coast north of Candlekeep. The player characters can travel to the Buckley village either by a sea voyage or by an overland journey. Here are what I would do as a dungeon master. If the characters choose the sea voyage, then I would have Captain Mytor Hans using the spa facilities at the Restful Lily, and have the characters travel there to get him. Perhaps the captain is having a painting of him done. If the characters choose the overland route, then have the characters come across the Restful Lily in the Cloakwood Forest as they are traveling north. If The Price of Beauty had a theme, its intention is to teach the adventurers that the phrase, "Do not judge a book by its cover," is as much a health warning as it is a suggestion not to get hung up on outward appearances. Thank you for watching. Hope this video has been informative and entertaining. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. I do like feedback. Till next time, this is RPGmodsFan saying cheers, have a good day, and goodbye.
I guess you're back. Are you gonna tell me where you went? All the messages I sent with no reply. It's like that. You're just gonna walk into my